Well, hello there. Live from Kingbridge Collaboration Institute in King City, Ontario, I'm Susan Radojevic, and this is Corner Office. Who would have thunk it that Corner Office, created for the purpose of connecting forward-looking leaders with leadership intervention and transformation tools like event portfolio alignment and value creation, would be starting its third season today. Now, some of you watching may view this comment as something typical, something a woman would say. After all, research shows that women tend to be less confident in business. And as such, I would not have thought Corner Office would succeed. While others may think I am playing down the accomplishment and of having a vision to create and produce a successful online live business show. Especially when back in 2010, when Corner Office first aired, very few women and men were using videos as a critical information source for senior executives. Well, statistically speaking at least, I can understand why folks might be skeptical of a woman leading such innovation. According to Grant Thornton, a business advisory, the number of women holding senior management roles in Canada has dropped from 28% in 2011 to 25% in 2012. 1 in 10 Canadian companies has a female CEO, while more than a third said they have no women in senior management roles at all. It's a bit better across the pond. In Europe, there are more women in senior jobs. In 2004, just 17% of women held senior roles. That rose to 20% in 2009 and 24% this year. While it's encouraging to see Canada ranked in the top half of the country ratings, there hasn't been a significant increase in women holding top jobs for the past 10 years. Joining me to unpack why this is our very own Corner Office explorer and blog contributor, Shirley Knight of Shirley Knight & Associates. In addition to Shirley's affiliation with Corner Office, Shirley is also an independent consultant with more than 30 years' experience in banking and insurance and specializing in strategic planning, leadership, and organizational development. Nice to have you back in Corner Office, Shirley.
Thanks, Susan. It's great to be here.
Well, this is going to be one big, great conversation. Two women. Two women very passionate about this topic too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, before we delve into the complex issue of female leadership and business, a few rules of engagement. After all, Corner Office is about having an informal conversation where meaningful outcomes can co-evolve. So, if you are watching us online and would like to weigh in, please use the chat tab found on your screen. If you are following us on our Twitter hashtag COLive or our agency's handle @Peregrine Agency, post your question using these channels and we'll make sure we get to your questions. Okay, with our engagement channels open, let's get started.
Let's do it.
There is quite a lot of research and statistics and opinions.
And opinions.
And opinions, of which I'm one of those opinions, I must say, about this topic.
For sure.
And the no women at the top conversation has been going on for almost 25 years now.
That I know of.
In corporations, in and outside of corporations.
Absolutely.
We seem to be focused more on the gender part of this topic. You know, them versus us, so to speak. Yet, I think it's more about leadership. It's who are the leaders that are most qualified to lead at the top.
For sure.
So, the question I want to start with is, what's the risk of leadership being gender neutral?
Yes, well, of course, I think there's more risk in it not being gender neutral, not being seen that way. But yeah, there's no question. There's a lot of men at the top and a really disproportionate amount of men at the top. So in boards and senior executive teams. So clearly somebody's perceiving a risk somewhere. because they're keeping it. So we can go with that, definitely. So what is it? I mean, I think it's two things. I think some of it is the company and some of it is women. So, you know, the saying is you own 50% of every relationship you're in, and there's 50% on this. I think corporately, there's a culture of, and especially on boards, it's a culture, it's a club, there's a lot of unspoken norms, and there's trust in that. This is kind of the way we do business, and it's been undisturbed for a long time. And so introducing other kinds of leadership styles and things, it's just a little unsettling. So we just like it the way it is.
Sorry, can I interject?
Sure.
Style, is a female leadership role a different style, or is it because it's a female, she would bring to the table a different style?
A female at the table would bring a different style.
Okay.
And to what they've had, the boards are kind of locked into
their
how
own,
how the way they've been. I mean, the statistics are incredible how slow it is to increase women. I think it was 0.2 or 0.02% last year, the increase of women in boards. I mean, it's just it's a snail's pace that's happening there. So there's clearly somebody's apprehensive about that. The other side of it, women a little bit do that to themselves as far as not being considered for senior leadership roles. They typically undervalue, and you've kind of referenced it in your introduction, they typically undervalue their skills. They credit other people, like the team was great, and so well, if the team's great, then maybe she's no good without the team, and so we better not take a risk there. And so that kind of backfires. And women don't really promote themselves the same way, like the way men do. And
well, I think that has to do a little bit with ego. We're not. I mean, it's not that we don't have an ego. We're not constantly have a need to, put it out there.
Yeah, I think we see things a little bit differently. Like we see that the collaboration, the integration of resources is really the magic. And so actually, when you say the team did it, that's actually a brag, because it's like, well, I set up the team, and look how good they are. But it's seen as I think it can be seen as a weakness, and or as something not to. So I think the risk is, should we put someone in there who isn't like the way it's always been? And I think, and when you get to the top of the house, everybody gets nervous there, and I think there's a lot of that going on.
You've said so much there that I'd like to unpack, but one of the things that I think is very interesting in an article that I read in HBR a few years back, it's titled "Women and the Vision Thing," and it was a study, a 360-degree study that they did, of which they polled mostly men. They actually said that. So obviously the results of this is through one lens. And what they said was, in the categories that they rated both men and women rated the most the best in most of the categories. They came out much more ahead of the men, except in one, and that was in the vision, being able to be a visionary, and men voted the women as not being visionary. Now, the article does go on to explain why that's really a myth, because of something that you touched base on earlier in your opening statement, is that it's not that women are less visionary, it's that women see things differently and they approach it in a different way.
Exactly.
So, which is why there is this kind of, I guess, stop. Like there's a stop because we're approaching it in this way, and men see it in this way, and yet we're being judged as through a men's lens.
Which is business. I mean, business has been through a men's lens for centuries, actually.
Yes.
So, and if you want to get, not to put too fine a point on it, but it actually copies the military, which was completely dominated by men. So, and business was, using those same models for years in the industrial age. So there's a reason for that, and that it's a cultural legacy that it's still very much alive.
But we're not in the same environments. We're not in the same industries that
No.
we have been for the past 100 years, 100
Well,
plus
and
years.
kind of this is what's happening, though, is exactly right. Because we are making money out of people's minds now. Before, we produced and manufactured things, and there were farms, and it was all very, very concrete. Now we make money out of the way people think and how they can apply their creativity to whatever situation we're in. So the leadership style that brings out the best in those people is by definition the one that's going to make the most money, because that's how people make money, is through their minds. So the more you can touch that and bring that out. And this is where the skill set shifts, because women, or all of these skills can be learned by men or women, but women are naturally adept at that, and naturally adept at those skills that bring out collaboration and contribution and all of those things. Those skills are moneymakers, and women are naturally good at them.
Okay, so, but we're still not on boards in it.
No. No.
So
and
why is that?
Well, and my concern about that is not that there's women on, that it's all women, like that's
No.
No, like my concern is that, and McKinsey's done all the studies on this to, there's lots of data to support this. It's not just my opinion, but gender balanced senior teams perform financially better than homogenous ones. And likewise with boards, gender balanced boards have a more balanced approach to the business. I mean, the population's 50-50. Like, it's not a coincidence. We're better off when men and women are, exactly we're better. So
by gender balance, you mean
gender balance,
not equal number of men and women, but there's more, just a better mix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, a perfect world would be 50-50, but just like the population, or is it 51-49 or something, whatever. But Norway got just a handle on that. They legislated 40% because they had. The worry used to be that there wasn't a talent pool, but there's a huge talent pool. There's more women graduating from university now than men. Like, there's a remarkable talent pool of women to draw from, and certainly more experienced women than ever who could be on boards. And so Norway just said, we're going to do it. 40%, the public companies, the board composition is 40% women, start now. And it took them less than 5 years. So they did it.
It's interesting that you say that, because I'm not a supporter of the
quotas.
Yeah. No, for me, it comes across as being, okay, we've got this quota, let's just check it. Let's just check. Okay, 50% or 40%, whatever it is, we got it now, let's move on. I don't think that addresses the problem.
Well, and historically, you're right. I mean, when they said put more women on boards, they said, well, hired one, check it off,
exactly.
We're good to go.
Yeah.
And, the reality is one isn't going, it's critical mass, is that you need more than one. But there's a cycle of distrust in there somewhere, and so
No, distrust. What do you mean by a cycle of distrust?
well, distrusting something different,
Okay.
a different approach, because women, for example, the article, they think differently, therefore they're not visionary. Well, wait a minute, how did you get there?
How did you get? I didn't understand how they got there either, but. Anyway.
And we do, think differently, explore things differently. I mean, I know my own brain, I go like this, I go around and like that, versus straight line to something. So I think that's just how I think.
I think we're a little bit more observant, and being observant through a man's lens, I guess, in today's world, is not something that's considered to be a leadership skill.
Well, so McKinsey studied that. They were trying to figure out what is the leadership skills required, and they came up with actually 9 of them, but what they found was a gender bias in those skills. So these are the leadership skills that are required to that typically engender a successful company that make money. They make money. The skills that make money. Let's put it that way. And women are really good at 5 of them, like role modeling, participative decision-making, collaboration, inspiration. Like, women just do that. They're really good at that. Men they found are really strong at single decision-making and kind of control, setting up control things, which is that's important too. So it's not that one or the other is more, except that women have 5 of them. The other 2 of them were neutral, like they both men and women had. So this is, it's quantified that these skills are are important for innovative companies and to grow companies. So, and it's statistically verified. And the talent pool is there. So it's not that big a deal to take the next step. But
it is, though.
But
'Cause
it
we're
is
not
that
taking
big.
the
It
next
is
step.
that big deal because no one's taking the next step.
Yeah.
And so, so this is where, as I always joke, that men hate failure and they love numbers. So quotas would actually be something they could actually accomplish. And I'm sure the Norwegians guys are saying, yeah, look what we did.
Okay, well, staying with that quota thing, statistics also show that when there are women on boards or at the helm, stock markets and stock prices do much better for the organization.
I know.
So
It's true.
then why
That's true.
aren't there more if men like...
They don't want a good stock price.
Well, one company doesn't, right?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that strategically you should always take a stand back look at the company and just every year or so just take a look and say, so how's that working for you? Like what we're doing, how is it working? And this is just a shot of fresh air here that you could actually be making more money. Your price could actually be going up because people who are doing that. And again, it's the balance. It's that yin and yang thinking, and that's what strengthens the company. Not having all women or all men.
Yeah, you touch base on the balance thing. Is it also flexibility?
Flexibility of
in being more flexible in approaching this topic as opposed to...
Oh, yeah, the need to be more flexible in order
yeah.
to, yes, absolutely. There was a story, I wish I'd kept the article because it's such a great one. It was from the early 90s, though. But Bill Gates' company was just getting set up. And they had, it was a breakthrough business, and it was all new. And they had guys with, smoking cigars with their hats on backwards and, really gross screensavers and stuff, and it was fun, like it was funky. It was all part of the computer thing. But Gates started to notice that women were leaving, and they weren't applying. And so he caught it because he's that guy, right? Gates calls Waterloo University to entice them to join his company. So like he's all about building talent. And so he called the HR and said, like, what's up with that? And the HR told him, well, we're not nuts about the culture. They don't like that. It's easier to work somewhere else where they don't have to sort of go through that. So he went out to them and said, I'm sorry, guys, nobody gets to cut me out of the talent pool. Like, you just cut me out of 50% of the talent pool. We can't do that.
Oh.
So we're going to have to come up with some cultural changes to make it that this is a place where everybody wants to work, not just you guys. And you're doing a great job, and I'm glad you're here. And we have to tweak things so that we can get more of you in here, more people in here. So, and he did, and it's great. And they have gender balance there. So there you go.
So it's interesting because you mentioned earlier that you believe that today's market and the business that we're in today, it's about selling what you know and hiring what you know, what someone knows. And the industry that you just mentioned, Gates, was the IT industry,
Yes,
and it was
right.
so it's innovation.
Yes.
So by him aligning it more towards where he was going with the company, he was actually breaking that rule.
For sure.
And
yes.
I don't know what his ratio is now.
I don't know now either. Yeah. It was just the his unending quest for talent. Like I think Microsoft owns Waterloo. Just like they just know that these guys are coming out of there. The people are coming out that they need. And he's just really got this thing about getting the right people into the company, and because it was a new business, it didn't have a legacy, and so they were able to do that.
But it was
right?
operating. It's not that it was just not a new business. It didn't have a legacy. It was also it was a new industry,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So they were kind of breaking the mold.
Yes.
But it's interesting about cultures and why. The cultures of the organizations, and they're led by a certain type of an individual. When I look at public companies and look at all the CEOs, they pretty much look. It's like the Stepford of CEOs. They pretty much look the same,
Yep.
So, I mean, are we going to run out of those? White guys?
Those middle-aged white guys? I think so. Certainly in Canada, the most diverse culture in all of the world, probably, yeah.
It's bizarre, though. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. And the thing is, the influence that they have. I mean, I told you this story before, but I had an occasion to have dinner with 4 CEOs of CIBC when I was with them, and I just realized, I had this epiphany at dinner. I've been working there with each one of these guys as CEO, and so over dinner we're just having a nice conversation. It was a retirement dinner, and as they started talking, I realized, oh my God, when you were in charge, we were like you.
Oh.
And then the next guy, who I didn't like as much, when you were in charge, we were like you. That's where it came from. You talked about the girls in the bank. Oh. And we were there, and then when you were in charge, we were like you. And you love the United States, and you're bringing that to you, that you bring that to your leadership. So it's like, oh my goodness, like I could just see it.
So you could really see that.
It was an epiphany. It's actually the reason I went into leadership development.
Wow.
45,000 people. I started out as the lowest trainee, a management trainee at the bottom of the pile there, and I felt them. Wow. I felt them in remote places where I worked, and so on. I could feel that they were the culture. So the leadership influences a company in a profound way, more than if you ask a leader, they wouldn't even realize. That's all leaders have that in common, is that they underestimate the impact they have on the people around them. But amazing to me, 45,000 people, and I felt every one of those guys exactly in my day-to-day culture. That's how it rippled
And it's
through.
Still the same though, isn't it, in the banks?
Absolutely.
The bank is on one hand, we're such a stable economy, we're such a
For sure, no question.
great country right now in the scheme of things, and it's led by men. So what's the initiative?
Don't mess with it.
Exactly. What's the initiative there? Why
Exactly.
mess with it?
And it's that constant tension, stability, and change. And we have stability, and it's wonderful that we do. And as a Canadian, I'm delighted and concerned at the same time, because that's any overused strength becomes a weakness. And so we are so locked up stable. And the risk is the world passes you by. And the unnamed company in Canada that isn't doing well, the world was passing them by, and they were missing because they were so locked up in, we've got a good thing here, we're not going to change it. And so if you don't change your leadership, understanding what I just said, the impact that leadership at the top of the house has on the culture, and you don't change the board, who is the one who approves and selects the leadership, you're not going to and this is why I say, if you had more women on boards, if there was gender balance on board, I see that as a leading indicator for innovation in Canada. I think that you would start to see innovation happen because of that.
Because of the diverse thinking and the way women see things?
Yep.
Is that what
it's more open. It's not that women are more open. I'm saying gender balance is more open.
The conversations are more open.
Exactly. And there isn't the unspoken norms and all that kind of stuff. No, that doesn't. Like, things are explicit and conversations are real, because there isn't a club or a typical way to do things. And women freely ask questions, and
Well, that's because we're not afraid not to know the answer.
Exactly.
I think men are more clued in.
It's more of an expert model.
Yeah.
I should know this, and so I can't reveal that I don't, so I don't ask the question. So
but
just
they're
the
changing
fact,
too in that environment, because they can't know everything now, because everything is coming at them left, right, and center. So
and the winner of the game is the one who asks the best questions now. Like now, It's not like that anymore. It's not having the answers. It's asking the question. And questions are always about the future. The statements are about present, what's here and now, or past. But questions are always about the future. So the fact that women are asking the questions is a really good thing, and the fact that men are doing it now too is fabulous. And got to go further than that.
Well, I think that women in general can be more effective if they do step up to the plate, and I don't think that we are stepping as much up to the plate. But then we've also don't want to step up to the plate that's before us.
Well, and I think some of it's true. I mean, I think it's an uphill climb. I mean, if there's this kind of embedded bias, and that's tricky. And I've been up against it in my career forever. So it's hard work. Like it's always extra work. There's no question. But one of the things that concerns me is that I don't think younger women are aware of it, because they're coming out of university. Lots of them, like more women than men, coming out of university, and that's a meritocracy.
50%.
Yeah, exactly. And university is meritocracy, like you get what you give if you,
Yeah.
you know, and so it feels equal. And they feel like they have equal opportunity. And then the reality is they don't. And so what happens quickly, like still, women are making 80% of what men make to do the same work. So there's this split goes like this after university, and women and men go forward. So being aware of that, and I talk to a lot of young women who aren't aware of it, and it always disturbs me.
Why aren't they aware of it?
I don't think, first of all, I don't think everybody realizes the top of the house thing, like how important that is, that the impact of. So they think, oh, okay, like we've got really good jobs here, and okay, we don't have the top jobs, but we've got some really good ones. It's like, well, no, actually, again, not having the top jobs is a thing. Like you probably could do a fabulous job in that top job, but you're not, unless you're aware of it, you can't get there from here. You have to chart and manage your career to get there. So.
Do you know, it's interesting that you say that women aren't stepping up and that they don't realize it. What's the lady's name that is the CEO of Facebook?
Oh, I can't remember.
Cheryl
yeah.
Sandler.
And Google too. Google's got a great lady
was doing a orientation with her company. I saw this on a TED Talk, and she had said that we're going to have some questions now, and there were questions being asked. At one point, she said, "I can only take 2 more questions," and there were a lot of hands up, and she realized after, because somebody came to her that was a woman that said, do you realize that when you said that there were only 2 more questions, all the women put their hands down?
Oh, well, then I won't bother. I don't want to take up the time with my silly question.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Got to get over that, don't we?
Well, I mean, I think it's really considerate. She only has, you got your girlfriend up there. She's only got a couple of questions to take. You go, okay, I'll help you out with that. So, that's not a bad thing.
No.
But yeah, for sure. If they were not doing it because they didn't think their question was important, that would be very, very wrong of them.
But it's so it was such it was like it was like a normal thing.
Yeah.
It was, and I have to say, I've done that.
Autopilot. Oh no, I have.
I've done that too. I mean, poor guy has to get off the stage.
Yep.
Yep. So I have done that myself. Yep. Now, I want to be clear here. We're not bashing men here, right?
No,
both,
not at all. No, we love men. We do.
Okay, surely that's a different topic. And
it's true.
And that's a good place to break. We're going to take a break and be right back. Don't go away. The future of meetings and events as a business builder and leadership intervention tool is not about going just to talk. It's actually going to do something.
Dealing with corner office, one thing where I thought was found huge value in this was the preparatory work.
Getting people to trust, and I call it going deeper with them, because unless you can get them to go deep, you don't get out what they're really thinking, and you don't get out the really good ideas, and you don't get out the whole purpose for having the collaboration.
Having the live people here and the online and having the both brought in, I really like that, as opposed to just having online or just having live.
And they actually walked us through a whole process and asked us some tough questions. If you're going to be put in front of a camera and they ask you, why do you exist, I thought that was just a stroke of brilliance.
An idea for them to take away, like take some of this brilliant conversation, and this is how you might consider beginning to apply it slowly into what you do in your daily life, in one small thing, to get them to start shifting.
This arrangement was very conducive.
This is Corner Office, and I'm Susan Radojevic, live from Kingbridge Collaboration Institute in King City, Ontario. Joining me is Shirley Knight, a Corner Office explorer, blog contributor, and independent consultant on leadership and organizational development. We are talking about female leadership and business. Now, before we broke away, we were having a very lively discussion, and we got some questions from our audience. Shirley? So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first question is, what is the dilemma of new leaders today?
Oh, well, of new leaders. For leaders, the dilemma is always stability and change, and that's the constant dilemma, is letting go, changing and evolving, but hanging on to what was strong and solid. So there's always this tension between keeping things good and growing and innovating, and so that's the standard. For leaders today, I think the dilemma is career management more than ever.
Career management?
Career management, yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like for example, there's a lot of, there are more women coming out of universities right now than men, actually. So there's
50% more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and there are more women eligible in the workforce than ever. But there's no women in boards and there's no women in senior leadership. So, you know, can you get there from here? And what happens is they come out of university together, it's a meritocracy, and men and women perform really well in meritocracy, it's equal, they come out okay. And then the gap just starts to kick in after that. And men make more money, get more jobs, and there's fewer and fewer women. The higher up you go in a company, the fewer women there are, in percentage-wise, in the management ranks. And you know, some women just opt out because they don't want. There's it's a tricky culture to play, and they just opt out, and that's
it's a male-based
yes,
culture.
yeah.
The approach is male-based, is what you're saying.
Yes,
yeah.
and you know,
that seems like such a big problem. Like seriously, when you think about it. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, it seems like such a great opportunity right now because we are in this business transition. We are transitioning from industrial to knowledge and digital based industries. We're transitioning the way we interact. Look at us today. We're interacting with a bunch of people online. Mm-hmm. So why aren't more people stepping up? I know we're seeing the statistics going up, that women are going in the right direction, like trying to get into those boards, but it's not. There's no momentum. There's no tipping point.
I mean, that's the thing. Is
Malcolm, you need to write a book.
Yeah, really, exactly. We need you. But yeah, well, actually, Richard Branson wrote an article about it on there's not enough women on boards, and it's a concern.
Is that the starting point?
Yeah, for me it is.
Why?
Women on boards.
Tell us why.
You know, I think that. I think everything starts at the top, and I just think that's the way it works in corporate life. And I mean, to expect everyone else to be behaving in a way that the senior leadership is not, and the board is governance. I mean, they're over the entire company, and they're not prepared to do what they want other people to do. I mean, it's not going to work. But it really, you lead, having a balanced board. And I mean a balanced board. I'm gonna do an unnamed company that's Canadian, that's big, and that's really struggling right now.
One guess who that is.
Yeah, but you know, that board was made up. I think there was a woman, but like men with finance backgrounds. Like everybody had a financial background. And you know that wasn't finance that was eating their lunch. It was creativity and being and understanding your customer and like loving your customer enough to want to give them something that's going to make their life better. Like that's what was going on. And you know, again, those are the kinds of I will name Expedia. Like that's an all-male board on Expedia.
Expedia is an all-male board?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's very interesting.
That's crazy.
I have to tell you very quickly. The community that we kind of play in is what we call the classic meeting and event community.
Right.
They're a self-proclaimed industry. I don't think they are. They're part of the travel and hospitality, but that's another story. But in that community, there aren't any statistics, but I'm just going to guess here. There's probably around 80% are women.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The community has associations. So there's a number of associations, and one in particular, right now, they just re-elected their board, mm-hmm. and it's the 2012-2013 board. While they have board directors on their boards, they do not have any females on their executive. They're all men.
Sounds like the bank.
And they have and they have 80% are female.
Yeah, I know.
members.
The bank's 80% female.
You know,
yeah.
it's just well, it's a, as you can tell, it's a very sticky point for me because I'm just shaking my head, and you know, and I'm one of these people that actually put my name forward. Well, I know why they didn't select me, but they turned me down. So you know, but it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So how do we get us on these boards? How do we get women on these boards?
Well, yeah, because I got turned down on a board because they asked me to rate my skills. And I rated my financial skills as 2 out of 5.
You were honest.
And you know, but I got like 25 years of banking experience. I was in corporate banking. I read statements for a living. I have an MBA, and with finance embedded in it. But I was thinking, well, I mean, you know, compared to a CFO or somebody who does I'd give a CFO like 4, and I'm taking 2. And then they wrote me a nice letter saying, unfortunately, your financial skills are not strong enough.
Well, now, you know what?
So it was totally my fault.
But you were being truthful. Like
Well,
you were judging, well,
Yeah.
you might have been judging yourself harshly too. Because that's something goes back to what you said earlier
and
about
I've been
women.
already on an audit committee in a corporation. I mean,
But
it's
women-
not like
but we
I
tend
had
to judge
experience.
but we tend to judge ourselves a lot
Exactly.
much harder.
And so, I mean, I think a lot of that goes on. A lot of people holding themselves back. I do think there's some home realities with women that don't exist for men. So like that's,
Yeah.
you know, there really is. That article, I read an article that said you can't be an alpha female without a beta male. Like all the women have someone at home looking after things, and you know.
Well, the other question that we have is, what is it about the corporate culture? Because I know you really in your organizational development,
Yeah.
you really focus on culture is one of your fortes. What is it about corporate culture that is making women opt out of investing in getting top jobs?
Well, I mean, the bias is there, and in many corporations. And I'm using general statements here because I'm sure there are corporations that it's not there, but certainly the ones I know, the bias is there. And I mean, he even did a study of a human resources departments that if a man and a woman sent their resume in saying, you know, I know you don't have any jobs, but could you keep my resume on file? They'd say, sure, fine, and they'd automatically channel the men's resume to senior roles and the women to less so. So there's actually a cultural bias in that human resources group, the groups that they were studying, where they actually made women. So that means women just have to work that much harder. And then after a while, you just kind of roll your eyes and say, like, why do I'm like, you know what, I have the vision, I can do my own business, because there's lots of women entrepreneurs, and you know, so I think the other thing in corporate culture is this lack of sponsor thing. Like that's.
But is that the only way that we're going to be able to get more women? Is to have men sponsor us?
You know, I just know. I know competent women who have struggled and left and gone to other companies, and like been ridiculously successful there. And they say, you know, I couldn't make it in this company because no one would sponsor me. I know other women who are radically successful, and they say, it's my sponsor.
We need men to sponsor us?
Well, it has to be men because
they're
in the position of power, for sure. And you know, I talked to a man who only retired 2 years ago, who said he would never have a meeting with a woman and close the door in his office, like one-on-one. So I mean, he's thinking, you know, what are the optics of me alone in the office with a woman? So I mean, yeah, how are you going to sponsor somebody if you can't even, you know?
He's not even comfortable being.
So that's what I'm saying. The biases are just are every, and it's just hard to get by. And so, you know, organizationally, how you beat anything like that is to make it explicit, is to explicitly say, and just surface everything, to say, you know, okay, if we are going to be an effective company, this is the way we need to manage, this is the way we need to lead, and look for the skills that are there, and you're going to find them in women. You're going to find that a lot of women can help you.
What I'm hearing you say, Shirley, is something that I actually don't think that it's, I personally don't like it, is when we mandate that we have to have a certain percentage, like in Norway, 40%, because then you're just, in my opinion, you're just ticking the list. We need 40%, so let's just get women in here, you know. But what I'm hearing you say here is that really that's what we really have to start with, that
Well, I think on the board, I do. I think on the board thing, I think it's got to be something that people want to do. Because we've been talking about women on boards for, oh gosh, that's over 10 years, that conversation. And, you know, last year it went up 0.2%, 0.02%, or 0.2%, sorry, 0.2%. Increase in the number of women in boards. I mean, at this rate, like my great-great-great-great-granddaughter is going to have a chance, but like it's going to take a long time before. So there has to be something to break the momentum. And you know, your question is, where do they think the risk is? There has to be something to break that momentum.
And we're just not feeling that need to break that
Apparently
momentum?
not. And it bothers me.
Is it because we have all these?
Well, I think.
But as we said it earlier, you know, we're going to run out of these guys.
Yeah, and I think and I'm getting into Canada here, but like
that's okay.
What's good about Canada is can be an overused strength. Like we're the envy of the world because of our stability right now. We're a diverse culture and we're very stable. Our banking system.
But we're too small.
Well, we are small for sure, but our stability. Any overused strength becomes a weakness. Like we're just locked in and afraid to don't rock the boat. It's good. You know, we've got it right the way it is. And I think what happened in Norway was we have confidence in the pool of women, and so we're going to just get them in there. And I think Canada has every reason to be confident about the pool of women and just get them in there. And that's why I think quotas would work on boards, because boards are about thinking and governing. Executives are about performing and delivering, and so the lack of financial experience or the lack of operational experience, there's no substitute for that. Somewhere along the line, they would have to get the experience. But on boards, they would be fine. They'd be strong, broad thinkers, as women are.
So, you know, you're mentioning the boards. The last question that we got is, what difference would it make if there were no women on boards?
Well, if there were no women on boards, yeah. Ask the unnamed company. No, sorry. That was bad.
Watch your money go out the window.
Well, you know, what's going on how I found out about Expedia is this company, Canterbury Investments, publishes a list to investors to say, if you're investing in Expedia, and they do a list they have a list of, I can't remember any names. Expedia shocked me so much, that's why I remember it. But they circulate maybe 12 companies that people, they know their clients are investing in. And they just circulate, they have no women on their boards. And that is, this investment company says, that's a risk. That's an operational risk. Are you aware that your investment is at risk? And so what they're hoping is that the shareholders will say, you know, I don't want to invest in
a
here.
company that doesn't have the diversity.
That isn't managed, exactly. That isn't, because they're, yeah. So, you know, what would happen is we would create a lot of risk if we don't have the balance. It didn't matter so much in other times, because like I say, we were making money for different reasons, and you know, it was a little more locked down. And governance wasn't as important. It was kind of like a rubber stamp for
until
centuries.
we had we had all of these
exactly
things happen that
and only the
led
board
by men.
only the board could have stopped it, and the board was busy rubber stamping it. Like, go ahead, yeah, exactly. So the role of the board is more significant now, and rightly so. And
they're more accountable now.
Exactly.
Right? It's the accountability part that's really.
And having competent, diverse thinking is really important to them, to make sure that they don't do a Lehman Brothers, like to be able to, or an Enron. So.
You know, one of the things that I read, Don Tapscott, he's the author of Wiconomics. He's a consultant, international consultant. But one thing that he said once is that if we want to change the corporations, we have to change the industries.
Oh,
which is very interesting, because it kind of, you're kind of aligning with him, because what you're saying is that the industries are changing, because we've gone from a industrial age to a knowledge digital age, where information is really important. So we are changing the industries, but we seem to be
not changing the governance.
Yes, it's still not changing the governance and the leadership. So it's a really sticky sticky
what-
questions.
yeah,
So how does one, if you wanted to summarize, because we're going to have to, my goodness, we're going to have to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
But if you want to summarize, because we covered a lot here, if you were to summarize, what would be required? What can we do today as a corporation, as individuals, whether we're gender whatever, what can we do to try and get more leadership that is balanced, gender balanced, as
Right.
opposed to them against us? So what would you suggest that organizations and people in general would do?
Well, I mean, for women, I suggest that they more consciously manage their career with an end, a larger end state in mind, and understand that yes, there's an uphill struggle, but know that you need to manage and plan for this because you'll get there. Like
Sooner.
Yes. You know, it's interesting. Love to hear, love to talk to someone in politics about this, have a political view on, because I really think, you know, governments can do good things, and even though I like to take shots at our government every chance I get, I do think that they do a good job on a lot of things, and they could intervene.
Do they house Stephen Harper's cabinet?
Yeah.
Is he gender balanced?
Yeah, sure he is. Yeah, of course he is. And maybe
He's
that's
not, though,
maybe
is he?
no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I know he's not. But I'm thinking, you know, maybe that's why they don't want to take a run at it, because someone will say, well, what about you guys?
Yes.
But they're elected, and you know, and I think Jack Layton's sweep before he left us shows that, you know, young women were well received and by electorate and did very well. So the opportunity is there for sure. So I'm thinking legislative, and I think corporately, again, you know, women on boards would hold them to account, because you know you're leaving money on the table if
Yes.
you've got a homogenous leadership team or leadership board. So who should be intolerant of leaving money on the table? That should be the board that's intolerant of that.
Well, my takeaways from this has been really great, and here's what I'm taking away. I'm taking away that women help to create competitive advantage. We're great for the bottom line.
Yep.
Female leaders are equally visionary.
Yeah.
We just see things differently, and we do things differently. We're more collaborative. We're more nurturing. We want to be part of a team.
And those
But-
are strengths.
Exactly,
Those are
but
strengths
it
right now.
doesn't prevent us from taking control. Like we can
Absolutely.
take
Of course.
control, considering
Totally.
that I just read as well that women make decisions for most major purchases.
Yes.
So, and this is why the entire retail market is focused on us.
Especially Travel Expedia. Did you hear that? Yes.
And the final thing is that I think is what you were talking about a lot is about the talent pool diversity and the thinking that comes out of that,
Yes.
which again makes the stock go up
Yeah.
by having that,
Absolutely.
and the innovation and all that stuff. So that's
sure.
really, those are the three things that I've
Yeah.
taken away.
Yeah. No, that's it.
So we're going to see if we can get a politician to come on
No,
the show
that
next
would be great. That
for
would
our
be a
next show, because
conversation.
this is a
Yes.
two-part series,
Yeah.
and we're doing this was women leadership and business, and hopefully
Yeah.
we can do a women female leadership and politics,
great.
because I
Yeah.
think
I'd like to hear about
I'm kind of, you've changed my mind. I have to say that I have been so dead against set against the
Quotas. Yeah.
because I just feel that's just a checklist, so that anybody
patronizing. You only got
exactly
it because of that.
And now listening to you and having this conversation, this has now has me
more
thinking,
comfortable.
you know what, if that's going to get our foot in the door, then we can do what
Exactly.
we need to do when we're there.
Yes.
You know, so this has been very, very enlightening. Great conversation as always.
Really enjoyed
Very
it.
passionate
I
about
really
this
I know.
topic.
I want the girls to get in there.
Yeah. What's that saying that? What was that? The West wants in, the women want in, folks.
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shirley. It was wonderful.
Thanks, Susan.
This episode will be available for viewing next week on our website. Our website is theperegrinageagency.ca. If you have thoughts on today's show, go to our website and click on the agency blog and post your comments. Find us on Twitter. Our hashtag is COLive, or follow at Peregrine Agency or me at Susan Radojevic. Join us next month for the conclusion of Female Leadership and Business series. Thank you, Maria, Hugh, and Aaron, our production team, and a big shout out to our sponsors and partners coming up on your screen. Check them out. And last and certainly not least, thank you for participating today. For Corner Office, I'm Susan Radojevic, logging out.